Well, welcome back to the Real Estate 401k show where I'm adjusting my shirt over my belly. Boy, the holidays really caught up to me, man. So I started your intermittent fasting thing, Ryan.
Did you?
I was like, oh, gosh, come on, 5 o'clock. I need you.
Dude.
I need you, like at 3:30 in the afternoon.
Dude, by
I was
at
like,
3 o'clock, you start getting hangry. You know what I mean? You're like, dude, it's like a
Fading
Snickers
away.
I
commercial.
just tell my family, you just know. Don't take it personal.
Yeah.
I'm hungry.
Yeah.
And I'm angry.
Leave me alone.
And
I'm
I'm
going
pissed off.
I'm going down in the basement. Yeah.
All right. Well, welcome back to the Real Estate 401k show. I'm your host, Mike Weinstein, alongside Justin Frederick and Ryan Gerdes. If you are interested in truly understanding the value of your home, go ahead and text the word Zillow to area code 623-AZ-RECON. That's 623-AZ-RECON, because we're going to talk about Zillow. And the Zestimate, Zillow's automated home valuation system, is something that is incredibly popular. It's the bane to our existence as real estate professionals because it oftentimes leads to very upfront and difficult conversations with sellers and homeowners, trying to help them understand what the true value of the home is. And they're like, oh, the Zestimate says it's this and that. Ryan, what I want to start off with Zillow, and what I want our listeners to understand, it serves its purpose, and I'm not here to knock Zillow whatsoever, but the purpose of Zillow and the purpose of the Zestimate is to lure homeowners into filling out information. Really, Zillow to me is a marketing company. They are wanting data. And so that is the allure of the Zestimate. Well, people come in and they want to know how much their house is worth. They're going to put in some personal information. And I want to start with home buyers because I want home buyers to understand when you're on Zillow, the ultimate goal for Zillow is for you to press that button that says request more information, and you're going to put in your name and your phone number in your email. And a lot of people don't understand what Zillow is doing at that point now is taking that information and selling it to other real estate professionals that are paying Zillow for that information. And I think as we begin the conversation about the Zestimate, it's important to understand what Zillow is, what the purpose of Zillow is, and what any user of Zillow needs to understand when you're on their site.
So, I mean, you've definitely summed up exactly what their product is, what their service is. Now, is there good information on there? From time to time, yes. We generally refer to Zillow as the Wikipedia of the real estate industry. And I don't mean that as a joke because there's still good information on Wikipedia. But you can, unbeknownst to you, have a property of yours or a home of yours listed by a random person because anyone can put anything that they want onto Zillow. And then it collects that data and interprets that data. And then if you're a homeowner or a property owner, it is going to use that data and ultimately, formulate that into their numbers. So it's unfortunate. And I know that they've done some things to try to, prevent that type of fraud, but it still happens frequently. Case in point, a couple of days ago, we have a client that we closed on, it must have been 8 years ago or something like that. And he calls me up and he says, hey man, what the hell is going on? My lot over there on, I'm not going to give out the address, but let's just say it's Main Street, is up for sale on Zillow. And I said, what? And he said, yeah. He goes, did you put it up there or what's going on? I was like, dude, of course I didn't put it on there. Like, what are you kidding me?
It was Justin.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Blame it on the lender.
Yeah. But it was listed by another real estate professional, and it was bled over. So,
wow.
And I know that we've had some podcasts on land fraud because this is vacant land. And he was victim to it, and so we had to go through the whole process of calling up the other broker that had put it up, and said, "Hey, look, how close are you with your client?" And she said, "Well, he called me out of the blue, et cetera, and he sent me over a copy of his driver's license." And I was like, "Well, he clearly stole that information and just threw it on Zillow." So I know I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but I want to illustrate what can happen on Zillow, and so that you can have a better understanding of what it is that their function is in this industry, because that's obviously a bad. Now, the good side is that if you own property, or if you have a rental, and you want to get some exposure, Zillow is not a bad place to go. I have a place. I have a place up in Alaska, and it makes more sense for me whenever I do my extended rentals on it for me to just go onto Zillow, and about 50% of the time, my tenant for the winter up there in Alaska comes from Zillow. So, it's a double-edged sword. So, I definitely don't hate them. I think that they're definitely helpful in a lot of different ways, but you just have to take it with a grain of salt, and you do need to put a couple of extra layers of due diligence on it whenever you trust it.
Well, and like I said, though, it just starts with the premise. The goal for Zillow is to collect your personal information. They're
aggregators.
Yeah, they're a data collection company that takes that data and sells it, and that, at the end of the day, that is their business model. That is how they make money. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a good thing. It's just people just need to understand that is the purpose. So when you click that button for more information, Justin, and you put in your personal information, you need to understand that information, it used to go out to 3 real estate professionals at any given time. And then all of a sudden people are getting called, text, email, and people are like, what the hell's going on here?
Well, agents were getting pissed because they were like, why am I fighting with all these other agents?
And why am I paying so much for this territory?
Right.
And we're just sending this information out to everybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the same thing with lenders. We were having the same issues. But yeah, they've dialed it in a little bit.
So to expound on that, we as agents, a lot of agents go in and they pay for either a zip code, or they pay for a regular subscription with Zillow, and then you go in there and you click on it, you submit, hey, I'm Joe Schmo, number 8675309. joeschmo@gmail.com.
I just got that.
Did you get it?
Now that song will be forever in my head all day long.
Everybody's head.
and then they broadcast it out to the people that bought in that territory, because they also say, hey, look, I'm interested in 123 West Main Street, listed at $575, and 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 2,500 square feet. And then it uses those algorithms, and then it starts pushing it out to the agents that have signed up for either that territory or whatever. And then now we're all battling to try to get a hold of you. And so the second you push submit, then all of a sudden you start getting a bunch of phone calls. They've dialed that back a little bit. So kudos to them. But they've done a lot of really good things for a lot of really good real estate professionals that have been able to take advantage of that. So, I mean, I will say one thing. I've had about 15 different conversations with property owners in the past month and a half, 2 months. And every single time I talk to them about Zillow, because I'm like hey, let's talk about the elephant in the room kind of guy. Where are you getting your information? Is Zillow, Realtor.com? Oh yeah, Zillow. I can't trust the thing that it's telling me about value. And that's words out of their mouth. And so I think that the gig is up when it comes to that. But I do think that it is a good resource for consumers to just kind of bounce things off of, because they do provide some good data, and they do get a lot of market statistics.
Before we get deeper into the Zestimate and the home valuation system with Zillow, the other thing I want to explain to buyers as well is it's not uncommon for a buyer to be on Zillow, see a home of their dreams, says active. It meets their entire buy box. They get excited about it. They click that button. They get a call from a real estate agent or the listing agent, depending on who's paying for what, to only find out that the house is under contract. And so we have a mobile app for our team. Our clients use our mobile app, and if it's on our mobile app, if it says active, it's active. With Zillow, they're also trying to dominate, the Google game. And so sometimes if it's pending or if it's under contract, it'll still say active. But to Zillow's point, they don't care, because now they got you on the phone.
They got more data, yeah. They got more people, more transactions.
And I don't necessarily mean to take this conversation on a left turn, but I think that the next one to really watch out for is homes.com. I mean, as a consumer, if you're watching this and you're not in the industry, then you'll notice that they've spent billions with a B on advertising during Super Bowls, during the World Series, any type of those big, huge platforms that everybody has their eyes glued to the TV. They have a spot on there, and they've paid big money for it. And their model is completely different. You don't pay for a geography. You don't pay for leads from homes.com. It's all listing centric. So if an agent has a listing and you as a consumer go and you click on it, say, I want more information, you're going to be connected directly with the listing agent.
Right.
Now, where they're trying to make their money is they're trying to bump algorithms. So if you don't put in a specific listing, you say, hey, I'm interested in Paradise Valley, Arizona. Then what they're going to do is they're going to go out to agents that have worked in the Paradise Valley area
And have paid for that.
and have paid for their name to come up, on the first page or the first three or whatever, so that if you're looking for representation in that area, that they're going to have the first seat at the table or second seat at the table, et cetera. It'll be interesting to see how they monetize that, because Zillow has figured out how to monetize it. I don't know how the whole thing with homes.com is going to pan out.
I think homes.com is going to evolve and change more. This is a personal opinion. This is not, not talking to anybody at homes.com. I'm not going to be surprised if I see some sort of transition more into a Zillow model eventually.
I agree.
I just want to say that to pay into Zillow or homes.com. I mean, we've never had to be vetted as an agent or a lender to start working there. So you could be a brand new agent.
Just pay to play.
Yeah, right. You can pay to play, and so you got to be careful. You got to ask questions. It seems like when you're getting these calls from somebody that Zillow's already vetted them, and they're a trusted realtor to Zillow, but you never know who you're going to get. So, ask those questions, interview.
Mm-hmm.
All right. If you would like to get our mobile app that we had discussed, that I believe is more accurate and more reliable than other apps such as Zillow or Realtor.com, or want to have a deeper discussion of truly what your house is worth, go ahead and text the word Zillow to 623-AZ-RECON. That's Zillow to 623-AZ-RECON. All right, let's jump into home evaluations and the Zestimate. And I always like when I have to have, and I'm like you, Ryan. If I'm going to go on a listing appointment, I am going to look at the Zestimate because I know the homeowner has looked at the Zestimate. So we have to address the elephant in the room. I always like to start the conversation by reminding or educating homeowners that a couple of years back, Zillow was in the home buying game. They were acquiring properties to flip, and they had billions of dollars to do this.
Sure.
And so they were acquiring all of these properties in different areas around the country with the intent to turn around, fix up a little bit, put it on the market, and flip like a true flipping investor would do. Well, they stopped because they found that they were overpaying for homes, and their profit margins got into more deficit margins. And it was because they were using their own Zestimate. So you just let that sink in for a second.
It didn't take much for the market to do anything before, because, in 2021, where they'd go in there and even give a full retail price, close in 2 weeks, they already made $50 grand because of the market appreciation.
Right.
So they weren't hemming and hawing then. But the moment that the market stabilized, then they're like, wait a minute, we're paying retail and overhead. And so, of course, their investors weren't very happy because they were promised certain yields, and they weren't meeting even a fraction of that. And then all of a sudden, their coffers started getting empty real fast.
Yeah.
Right?
So that's my thing to homeowners. Like, if Zillow can't rely on their Zestimate, then why should you?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you are living in a 1,500 square foot home, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, has been built in the past 10 years, and your neighbor and your neighbor's neighbor and everyone in the neighborhood has some variation of your floor plan, and it's more geared towards first-time home buyers where there hasn't really been much time for the neighborhood to mature, so to speak, then there's a good chance that Zillow Zestimate is pretty darn close, because most homes have not had pools installed yet. Most homes have not been remodeled yet. They're mostly, generally speaking, contractor grade or construction grade of whatever that builder was focusing on, because they're kind of like, Ford with their Model T. You can have it in any color that you want as long as it's black, right? And so they would just go over there and give you one or two different schemes. You picked from the one or the two that you wanted, and then boom, you moved in there. And most people, if they're a first-time home buyer, they usually don't have the funds up front to go and put in the flooring or do the kitchen or bath upgrades that they want to do. It's usually just a stepping stone until they can get into door number two. And so if you have that type of home, then you might be able to, you're going to have a narrower margin of error when it comes to your Zestimate. But if you have anything that's unique, or if you're in a neighborhood with a builder that had a vast array of different options, then you better take whatever number that they give you with a grain of salt.
All right, so I've always found that even Zillow's had a hard time really explaining how the Zestimate works. I think they used to have like a disclaimer years ago where it said the Zestimate is for entertainment purposes only. So I'm not 100% sure, but I think I'm right on that. But according to Zillow, the Zestimate is based on thousands of data points from public sources like county records, tax documents, and the multiple listing service. Part of the challenge, what people don't understand, is you as a homeowner, you can go in there and update your home by saying you've got this, you spent this on this, you got this, and obviously, the beauty's in the eye of the beholder. You may think you've did an outstanding job on this kitchen, and a homeowner goes, "Hey, I spent $30,000 on a kitchen upgrade, so therefore my home is worth $30,000 more." That's just not how it works. But I want to talk about the median error rate. So the median error rate on Zillow, or on the Zestimate, for on-market homes is about 2.5%. That's not too bad.
It's not too bad at all.
No.
But the median error rate for off-market homes is nearly 7.5%. So if your home is not on the market and you're wanting to kind of figure out through the Zestimate, where your house is at as far as value goes, it could be on average 7.5% off. When you're talking about a $500,000 house,
big
I'm no
number.
math major, but that's a big number.
Huge number.
I mean, I think it's a better number than what NAR reported, whatever, 3 or 4 years ago, because they were more like at 12%.
Okay, keep in mind this is from Zillow. These numbers.
No, yeah. So I guess
Add it a little bit.
Yeah. We 83% of all stats are made up.
That's my motto. That's gonna be on my tombstone. 85% of what Mike ever told you was made up.
99%.
Yeah. 7.49 still is a better number than what I would have anticipated. So.
All right, so let's go into now as we wrap up. I'm a homeowner, and I want to know where to collect the data, and I really want to know how much my house is worth. I explain to my homeowners that there is no automated system out there that's going to truly give you an accurate picture of what your home's worth. I know, Justin, your team uses a thing called HomeBot. HomeBot's pretty good.
It's not great,
but it's more of a range. And I'm not telling homeowners to not use the Zestimate. I agree with you, Ryan. I think it's a great starting point. It's a great starting point. But if I come to your house and you go, "This is what my house is worth. This is what you have to put it on the market for because this is what the Zestimate says," we're gonna have an issue. Homeowners have got to have more of an open mind and depend on the experts, because we use a variety of different sources and cross-reference a lot of different sources and helping homeowners understand really this is how much your house should be put on the market for.
Well, I'm not a naysayer, but sometimes it's helped us, and to be honest, every dollar that you add to your list price is an additional liability, not only onto you but on us as well. And so about half the time your Zestimate's going to be high, the other half your Zestimate's going to be low. And so if it came in low and you come to me and say, "Hey, look, I want to list my home for what Zillow says. It says it's at 800, and I have all the evidence to prove that it's worth 850." I'm going to inform you that, hey, your numbers are off.
Yeah.
It's not taking into this into account, that into account, etc. We could fetch a higher number. So that's obviously an easy conversation for us to have. But if you're wanting to list for 800 and it's on all the evidence suggests 750, then that'll be a little bit more difficult. At the end of the day, I always start with a very data-driven, kind of like how an appraiser would approach a a comparable market analysis. And so we're going to look at comps. We are going to look at all of the different upgrades. Or if you have deferred maintenance and you just decided to live there and that's that, then we're going to have a discussion about that and how your negligence is going to affect your pocketbook. And while that may be a difficult conversation, you're not there for me to give you good news. You're there for me to give you real news. And so
No fake news here on the Real
and
Estate
so-
401k show.
and so it's going to be a very direct conversation. And I understand that I end up rubbing people the wrong way with that sometimes, but I'd rather cut to the chase and just be honest about it up front.
Well, okay, so going back to comps, I think this is really one of the most important things to understand why the Zestimate can be off, because it is an automated system that is pulling in data. When you truly want to understand what your house is worth, you have to look at similar comps. A two-story house next door to you is a different comp than your single-story house right
Yep.
next door, right? And the Zestimate doesn't have the ability, as it puts together in their algorithm, to pull away two-story homes and single-story homes. So when they take a look at comps in a square mile, I was going to call it a square mile radius, but a mile radius, they may be just looking at square footage, but they're not taking into a lot of the different details that we do. I mean, when we're pulling comps, we're looking at all the activity in the neighborhood. We're looking at pictures. We're looking at the upgrades and trying to assess value to it. The Zestimate does not have the ability to do that.
And it likes to cross major roads. It doesn't do a great job of making adjustments if there's a higher traffic count. So if you back up to, let's say, Glendale,
Bell Road.
Yeah, Bell Road, and as opposed to your neighbor across the street, that's only a one-home buffer.
That's backed up to a lake,
Right. But
or a golf course.
but that one-home buffer is huge.
It's a big deal.
It's a massive deal. And so
You're talking about a premium compared to a price cut.
right.
You know?
And then it doesn't know that you just spent 30 grand on your kitchen and 20 grand on your bathrooms. It doesn't know if you just put in a regular old plain play pool versus a luxury pool with a grotto and slide. It doesn't know a lot of those different things. It can pull off a tax record, single versus multiple stories. It can use, and I don't know if it does, because like you said, they have a difficult time explaining how their algorithms actually work and I'm sorry, not algorithms, their algebra, how they're doing all their formulations. But it doesn't know any of those things. It doesn't know pride of ownership. It doesn't know if it's been a rental for the past 10 years and the tenants have beat the hell out of it. It doesn't know a lot of those things. It doesn't know if you were a smoker.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've walked into homes where it hasn't had a smoker in it for 5 years,
Dude,
and you can still smell it, and it just levels.
I took one of our clients out home shopping last week up to New River, and I mean, and I don't blame her. It's just she just couldn't get over the
I
smoke
couldn't either.
smell, because the house had all these wood beams and wood ceiling, and she goes, I mean, I don't know if I'm gonna ever get that smoke out of the wood, or it's gonna take years. I'm like, yeah, I don't blame you.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it.
So that's a knock on the value of that home.
For sure.
All righty. Well, if you're interested in learning more about the accurate picture of what your home is worth, or would like to get a hold of our accurate and reliable mobile app, all you got to do is text the word Zillow to 623AZ Recon. That's Zillow to 623AZ Recon.